Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Etech Leadership Table. This is a podcast where we invite you to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and join us as we tackle some remarkable discussions on everything leadership. I'm Melissa Wood. I'm your host. I'm the Dean of Leadership Development at Etech Global Services. Hey there, podcasters. I'm back. Welcome to this episode of the Etech CX Leadership Table. And you've heard us before, but if this is the first time you're at the table, we said just pull up a chair, grab your favorite snack, and just be like the old times when we sat around the table without our phones and we actually had meaningful conversation. So you'll see here, I have someone joining us that I'm personally excited about because the topic she's going to talk about, not only what's better than one Melissa, two, Melissa squared. That's what we have. Melissa Reeve, welcome to the
Thank you
Etech
so much for having me on the show, and I couldn't agree with you more. Two Melissas is better than one.
Two Melissas is better. This may get crazy fast, so let's hold on. Just hold on. We're going to be talking about AI and everything around it. So I know that, Melissa, we'll put your bio in there for everyone to see. It's about, I don't know, as far as me from Texas to Melissa is to Colorado long, because she has done and seen so many things. But I would like to say, I consider this Melissa Reeve, as basically a GPS, a GPS when it comes to AI. Like, I think I can key in some information into her and she can tell us how to get there. So you'll see her bio. It's not because of just what she thinks. It's basically because of what she's walked. She's got some experience in Lean Six Sigma, which I don't know. I'm certified Lean Six Sigma too. So that gives me a little bite. My mentor is Agile, all wrapped up in the world of Agile. And I know that has been a history of you, right? And so when you
absolutely.
take your marketing experience and you take all of that, no wonder that you got up in the middle of the night and started writing on index cards and wrote this wonderful book. So we'll link your book in there, and it's Hyperadaptive. Such a book title. For those of you that are sitting at the table with us, podcasters that have written a book, one of the hardest parts is to put a title on it.
Amen. Yeah.
It's so hard, and I think you nailed it. So the content is even better. But basically, how to rewire the enterprise to become AI native. That is a key word there, that AI native. So I like to go, when I go on a trip, I like to meet the natives in that area, like people that are from that area. So here's our GPS. We're going to plug in some questions and Melissa's going to help walk us through. Melissa, welcome to the table.
Thank you so much. And what a wonderful introduction. It is a pleasure to be here. And I love your analogy about the GPS. And that's exactly how I talk about this, is the AI landscape. And so I can't wait to dive in and talk about where we are on that landscape.
Well, just like with any GPS, I know for me and anybody else that wants to be honest sitting at the table, we would be lost without you. So thank you for taking this topic on. So let's plug in a few questions for you. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Because I've got double paper here this time to answer some questions, but I know that AI can do all sorts of things and give me the repeat. Question number one, most leaders think they have an AI problem, and I'm hearing this quite often, but you're saying it's really a people structure problem. What was the moment that made you realize that, text really wasn't the real issue?
Yeah. I mean, you walked through my background, right? So this background in lean manufacturing and in Agile. And I think anybody who has been in that space really saw that the challenge wasn't necessarily the technology. Although, things like Agile solved getting software out the door faster. But when you really break it down, a lot of those issues were coordination problems. What is it that we're going to build? What are the true requirements in terms of the software? And a lot of the Agile practices are about narrowing in on that. But even with great frameworks, whether it's Agile or Lean or something else, at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. And because I have this adjacent career to so many of these frameworks, I had that grounding. And in the origin story of the book, you alluded to it, that I woke up in the middle of the night and I started writing down on index cards. But if we rewind the tape a little bit farther, I was running the Agile Marketing Alliance when
Hmm.
ChatGPT hit.
Okay.
And and I just saw the alliance, all of the attention shift in that direction. And I fought it for about 6 months. I was like, I don't know about this AI thing, and I'm sure we can keep this agile thing going. And then I just realized that like this was a monumental shift.
Yeah.
And the aha moment, the real aha moment was when I had this vision of an automated marketing campaign end to end. And I thought, yeah, the AI can conceptualize it, build the graphics, build the test, run the test in an ad platform and learn and redeploy. And I thought, where have we seen this before? And my mind shifted to DevOps because that was the automation of the software delivery pipeline. Yeah, and so that was really the backstory on how do we connect these dots and why is the people so important?
First of all, I love the plan of DevOps. I love their symbol. I love that symbol of
Yeah.
the continuation. But I want everybody to pay attention here because you do have a tremendous amount of experience. But it's bar none as far as the experience that you have. But the visionary piece is really something that I think is setting us aside of how you're seeing how things will be in the future. I love that you're a GPS, but you even know the roads that aren't even built yet. You know what roads to take before they're even there. So I think that is critical. When you talk about writing the book and you know you wrote it on index cards, some of the best songs ever have been written on napkins and index cards,
Love it.
and I, you know, so I think that I loved to hear your story about that. So, what about this? You said that 80% of all AI initiatives fail. That's a really big number. 80%. I mean, that's a lot of money. You know, we can tie some money into that, not because of the tech, because there's no human blueprint. Where exactly is that breaking down in the CX space right now?
Yeah, so I feel like you know, there's not just one reason. There rarely is. It's everything from requirements breaking down. You know, IT might build something that the business can't really pick up to organizations trying to move too fast. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I've talked to organizations and they say things like we're all in on AI orchestration and they spend, you know, this one I have in mind, spent 6 months trying to make that happen. And they got about 80% of the way there, but
Okay.
it wasn't 100% of the way there. And they needed it to be 100%. And by the time they hit the end of that, they had burned through human capital, they had burnt through their budget. People were cynical now about AI. And so what we really want to do is to take a measured approach. And I know that that is so hard when there's so much pressure on these organizations from the media hype to the board pressure to C-suite pressure saying, let's go. And yet
Yeah.
we know from these prior transformations, these prior initiatives, that if the larger the organization, the slower you turn, and you need to be very deliberate in firing up the support structures to make things happen. And I talk a lot about these support structures. They're in the book
Okay.
to support the people, the processes, and the role redesign that needs to happen. And it's like putting new pipes down in an organization to flow new information through, and we don't yet have those pipes in place.
We've got the great technology, and as we're speaking right now, there's new technology that just is popping up. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
But
I do.
it's the people breakdown, and we hate to just keep deploying these things, and companies are losing a tremendous amount of money. I know you've probably talked to business owners. I know I have. Um, they have really good intentions, and they don't know why it failed, like why it didn't work, and so it's just so overwhelming. And I know there's people sitting at the table here. They're ready. They're like, okay, Melissa squared.
Yeah.
We need some help here. So going into this, it's messy in the middle.
Mhm.
Leaders are asking. They're asking me. They're asking you, and they're asking their teams to fly a plane
Mhm.
while they're rebuilding it. That's what
Yeah.
you mean by the larger companies take larger to turn. What needs to break first? Quality, culture, or people, and why does Melissa say so?
So So I want to revisit, just build on the thread that we were doing, which is kind of these support structures.
Okay.
And the reason is when we're talking about the messy middle, and we're talking about, why, how do we start to build or fly the plane while we're building it, which I think was uh, your words.
Yeah.
Then the support structures are really how we start to do that. And in the book, I start to outline things like an AI activation hub. And I want you to think about this. This is an amplified center of excellence where you have information coming into this AI activation hub. And it could be like Claude just released 4.7 with brand new capabilities. Well, you don't want everybody in your organization, whether you're a small organization or a mid-sized organization or a large organization, trying to figure out what that means for their part of the organization. And it could be any one of the characteristics that you outlined, the quality or the speed or any of that. What you want to do is you want to fire up a group of people. And again, this is fractal. So it could be one person is your AI activation hub. It could be a network of these hubs if you are an organization of 100,000 people.
Okay.
But their responsibility is to ingest what's happening in the market and do what I call atomize the learning. So they say 4.7's just been released. What does this model, this advanced model mean for our business or my part of the business or our team? And then they atomize that learning. So they create a little 15-minute video or a quick synopsis of what this means. They pass it down to your AI leads. These are your AI power users. And it's up to the AI power users to then get it in the hands of the frontline practitioners. And of course, we have feedback. This feedback loop goes the other way too. So you have your frontline practitioners who put this into use and they're like, hey, I just did this really cool thing with Claude 4.7. And they might communicate that up to their AI lead, who then communicates it up to their AI activation hub. And you can see how this starts to form a network where
Yeah.
these networks of AI activation hubs connect to surface the success patterns throughout the organization. This motion is what I call your AI learning flywheel, and it's bi-directional, and it's how organizations are keeping up with AI, and it's how they're building the plane while flying it. And the outcomes of things like quality is really about where the focus is and what do we want to start to improve while we're flying the plane.
Oh my God. I'm seeing that your DevOps background, your knowledge in DevOps, you just see that so clearly in here. This is I just saw an example of this yesterday,
Cool.
Melissa. We were doing we had in a contact center in BPO, we had an executive review of our agent training department. And there was a 4-month trainer, had been with our company 4 months, that did their first training class, and the assignment was to use an AI tool, right? So that new trainer showed an AI resource that it's a game changer, something that they've done in agent development for clients. It's a game changer. What that person did was an absolute game changer. But the question was asked is, how does that get looped? How's that get looped around? And there wasn't a loop. There wasn't a loop. So what you're just saying, so it was just an individual, it was basically your practitioner
Hmm.
did something in use, but they had no they just started using it. They didn't have an AI lead or
Hmm.
an AI hub to kind of link that back. And I can guarantee you people sitting in this podcast today, they're faced with the same thing. And
Absolutely. And when I talk about putting the new pipes in place, this is what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
that's it.
It's dedicated channels through which AI information, whether it's learning or whatever that information looks like, it's how it flows through the organization. And we've figured out how to flow through things like general communications
Yeah,
through the organization, but this is a little bit different because it has different owners. It has different people who are really tasked with the responsibility of creating bidirectional learning.
Yeah.
And we know that even if the pipes are in place, if you don't have anybody to manage that process, it doesn't get done.
Absolutely. I love that language that you're using about the pipes in place, right? Um, we think about your home. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, we take it for granted. We go in there and turn the water on or run
Mhm.
the dishwasher, but there had to be forethought. Even building a home, of where are you going to put that dishwasher? Where are you going to put that bath? The restroom. My son's building a home, and they asked this question the other day. They're like, "Do you want your a tub to have a pipe for the middle of the tub or the end of the tub?" Like, those are just the right pipes in place. And I guess what you're pointing out to me and to all of us, that's why this is not your ordinary podcast. This is not theory. This is practical. When we talk pipes,
Mhm.
we're talking practical application here. So I appreciate you being very clear about where the pipes should be. And that is extremely helpful. And um, if you're just going to screenshot any of this, you need to make sure that you're taking some notes of where your pipes are supposed to be. And some of us are sitting here thinking, "Oh my gosh, we don't even have pipes. There's
Right.
there's no pipes at all."
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
this is the missing piece because what I hear organizations talk about so often is what I'm calling the bifurcation problem. You have
yeah,
a handful of power users that have leaned into AI, and then
yes,
you have everybody else. And the question is, how do we get everybody else going along? Because the power users are your naturally curious. And those are the people who are figuring it out. And the mistake that organizations are making is assuming that everybody else can just follow along. And they can't. And I use this analogy of the piano, that a piano is very, very simple to use. Anybody can walk up to a piano and start dinking around on the keys.
yeah,
And yet, it's not easy to learn. It takes dedicated effort to learn how to play a song on the piano. And yet, because AI is so easy to use, we think that people can just pick it up on their own. And I'm here to tell you that that is not correct. And if you leave it to everybody to figure it out on their own, first of all, what we know, they don't have time. They're busy doing their day job.
right,
Second of all, it's a different type of learning because it's like there's so many use cases. And I like to say that AI learning is social learning. So we're learning it from each other, just like you did in the example that you shared.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. We started when we started I guess a pipe that we laid at Etech, we created a certification program, a
Mm,
belt we want to do it like basically a belt certification, kind of like your Lean Six Sigma. But we added a leopard belt. I thought you would appreciate.
love that.
There's a leopard. You don't have that in Lean Six Sigma. I thought that was missing in Lean Six Sigma. There's got to be some space for a leopard belt.
Absolutely.
And so we've got that leopard belt out there, basically for innovation, right? Pricing curiosity of innovation. So we at least have some pipes laid. But I saw yesterday that we have a few missing pipes.
Well, and what I'd like to shine a light on is there's what I call static learning and then there's dynamic learning. So the static learning is what you've outlined in your certification program. Here are some foundations around AI that
Right.
everybody can that are pretty stable that people can learn. But going back to the piano analogy, it's more like a synthesizer where new buttons are appearing every week on this thing. And so there's no way that static curriculum can keep up with that. And so really that's what I want people to be thinking about is what about this dynamic side of things that is just ongoing and ongoing for the future? Are you going to reinvent your curriculum every
Right.
4 months? It's just not possible. And so that's where I'm coming from when I say, hey, let's put some systems in place
Yeah.
to help learn from each other in a structured way on an ongoing basis.
That's magic. And to you, you're probably like, that's so simple, but you've seen without the proper systems. So for in your mind, I can only imagine the history you had and getting up, like you understand that AI is going to look totally different from a chat GPT that you were introduced to. So you're just basically looking at the process of how we flow education to the human capital.
That's right. And it's education, it's how do we empower everybody to really look at their processes, inject
Yeah.
AI into those processes as you start getting further down. So a year from now, my guess is everybody's going to start talking about job redesign
Yeah.
because we're going to hit that wall of, oh, we've just automated this entire process. And I like to say that people go from doing the task to building, monitoring, and maintaining the automation that does the task.
Yeah.
'Cause again, that's what we saw in DevOps. And
Yes.
so we didn't see a bunch of jobs go away. They did morph quite significantly, though. Now we have DevOps engineers. Now we have people who are focused on telemetry.
Yeah.
And I always tell my family, don't get me started talking about AI
I
because I
love it.
won't shut up.
I love it. I love this. I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Okay, so let's switch a little bit and let's talk about frontline teams. So frontline teams are being asked to adapt faster than ever, and I see this every
Mhm,
day. While still hitting metrics and delivering great experiences. At what point does that pace start breaking people? And
mhm.
how do you think a leader needs to recognize this like I'm broken here. Like, how does a leader need to recognize that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna stick with my piano example here because I
Okay.
feel like this is the thing that leaders aren't grasping quite yet, is this notion that if you want somebody to do AI well, so if you want them to play the piano and do more than just answer their email with it, then you're going to need to create capacity. And now I want you to put your agile hat back on, right? And this is good old prioritization and capacity management.
Yeah.
And so you can't, as a leader, just keep hitting the accelerator on your teams without doing the hard prioritization work. And so, what do you need people to stop doing so that they can start doing this important work? And I'm not saying this has to be something enormous, but I am saying you have to recognize that it does take time. It could look as simple as 2 to 3 hours on a Friday. If you can't get 2 to 3 hours, do 1 hour.
Yeah.
PricewaterhouseCoopers spun up something they called prompting parties. And,
Okay.
like, doesn't that sound like fun? It sounds like there'll
Yeah.
be pizza there, and it
Yeah.
sounds like we're gonna have a good time, and it sounds like we're gonna learn some stuff.
Yeah.
And so let's do that. Let's encourage the social learning in a dedicated space and recognizing that AI also is a J curve. So we're gonna slow down to speed up because of this learning curve. And I think if leaders can really recognize that it's going to take a little time,
Mhm.
that we need to be deliberate about our learning, deliberate about our approach, I think it starts to um, stop the burnout on the frontline teams
Yeah.
and bring some sanity back into what we're doing.
Right. You're exactly right on the sanity. And I think and it's also recognizing like the behavioral styles of your team. Like you said, you're going to have some people that are going to be power users because they're just naturally, inquisitive and they want to go in and learn. And then you've got that personality that every time you ask me to do something new with AI or learn something new, it just feels like you're stacking a brick on my shoulders and they get overwhelmed. I do want to invite myself to the prompting party. I do that. I don't care if they have pizza. I just want to show up. I want to show up to that prompting party.
I know it's
Uh,
so
I,
fun.
and I like the way you're going back to the piano. I think that that's such a beauty. Even it shows in your book too. So yeah, this is a plug for you to go get that book. If you haven't got it, get it. We'll make sure that we link that. But you're very clear on the process of doing things. I've talked to many people and I've went to many conferences. I've attended many webinars, and it seems like when someone leaves, they're really not sure what to do still.
That's right. Yeah, I see the same thing, Melissa.
Yeah,
I go to these conferences and it feels like everybody's they're aligned on the problem for
yeah,
sure.
for
And
sure.
I feel like they're lacking the roadmap, the blueprint, the how do we do it. Now, what I
Yeah,
think is really interesting is a lot of leaders, I've been writing this book for whatever it's been, 14 months,
yeah,
and a lot of people have intuitively gravitated toward these structures.
yeah.
And I think that's great. They figured out AI learning as social learning. They might have appointed AI leads. They may not be programmatically supporting them. They
Right.
may figure out governance, but not dynamic governance. And so I want to give people credit who are figuring out
Yeah,
the parts and pieces. And I think when those people read this book, what we'll do is that it's like having a part of the puzzle finished and
Yeah.
then seeing the rest of the pieces drop in and be like, oh, there it is.
That's what it looks like. It's the
That's what it looks
ocean.
like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fact because we've just kind of organically, like we don't know, we know it wasn't making sense, and we just do some things to make it make sense. But that's what I mean by I wasn't just trying to build you up. You have the experience, but you also have the visionary side, and those two make for clarity for me. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you. And I know that our podcasters want to listen because it's not about just theory, it's the clarity that you're providing is absolutely beautiful, and I appreciate you so much for that.
Thank you for that.
um okay, you're seeing some mistakes. I know you are. You gave some kudos to people who are organically like linking it together and putting the puzzle pieces together, but you're seeing some mistakes. You're seeing them making it repeatedly when it comes to AI in the CX space. Tell me what you're seeing and tell me as Melissa, Melissa, you better make sure you're not making this mistake. I'm seeing it. And how do I course correct? I'm going, you're my GPS, Melissa. Tell me
Yeah.
which way I'm going wrong and how I need to turn around.
Yeah. I mean, I think people really understand what needs to be done in the CX space. I think what we're struggling with is speed. So how do we go fast? I think we're struggling with how do we slow down to speed up.
Okay.
I We talked about wanting to jump to things like orchestration and jump to the future. And when I describe the hyperadaptive organization of the future, it looks pretty different. Today's today's organizations are still so functionally siloed. And I like to say you can't expect 21st century results with a 20th century operating model. And that goes back to Taylorism. It goes back to the functional silos that emerged after World War II. So the organization of the future, as I envision it, looks like three different levels. Instead of functional organization, at the top, we have what I call innovation circles. And these are your internal venture capitalists. They're the ones who are doing your R&D, really pushing the boundaries of what can be done with CX.
Okay.
The middle layer is value stream oriented. So this is tugging on your lean background
Yeah.
again. And when you think about the customer experience, it's more of a value stream. And so how do we think about finally bringing everybody that's needed to deliver that value to the customer together in a value stream and
Okay.
fully funding value streams? And the leadership shifts from leading a function to leading a value stream.
Okay.
And then we have the stable layer. And the stable layer is who's managing office buildings, who's managing your data centers, your infrastructure. And I feel like when I think about the organization of the future, and when I think about AI and CX, that's the model that that comes to mind.
Okay.
And my guess is that the CX people in the audience can relate to that so powerfully.
Yeah. I love this. I love the three point. I'm taking notes. I'm even wrote with a red pen today for
Nice.
seriousness. For seriousness here, not to correct, but for seriousness of it. I love those three: the innovation circles, the value streamed, and the stable layer, the ones that are managing. Okay, I think that's perfect. Anything else that you before everybody gets up from the table? What wisdom can you depart us with in this space?
Yeah, and I think the parting thought is we are trying to go faster using a horse and buggy. And I think people intuitively know that they need to reinvent and they can only go faster with a car, a plane, a rocket. They know the shape of it has to look different. And I want to encourage people to go iteratively and incrementally as they're changing shape because it won't happen overnight. And that I built that purposefully with this blueprint in mind to help people do it gradually. And together we can have more success.
Perfect. You know, that you can watch a one YouTube video and learn how to play a song, but you can't be a pianist unless you take the time to learn it. I love that. Uh, I'll never forget that pianist mentality that you left in my head. So thank you for that. Well, thank you for your for your blueprint, for your clarity, for that wisdom, your experience. And I hope this is not the last time that two Melissas are better than one that get to chat.
Love it.
And who knows, maybe there's another Melissa out there that wants to add something to us. So I appreciate your time. Until next time, podcasters, we'll see you at the CX Etech Leadership table. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.